Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. Electrifying.
Yes, guys, welcome back to the instant reaction. George is just setting up in the background. We'll be getting him on in just a second. We are here for the instant reaction to Inter Milan versus Arsenal. I spoke on the main podcast about wanting to enjoy more games in this season, and my word, was that enjoyable, as certainly at points. Arsenal 3, Inter Milan 1. It's one of those nights where the records just keep piling in. Arsenal are the second ever team to win 7 consecutive European Cup or Champions League games by a 2+ goal margin. The other was Bayern Munich, en route to winning the trophy in 1920. Do you want another one? First time Inter have conceded 2 in the first half of a Champions League home game in 15 years. We've scored the joint most goals of 20 and conceded the fewest in the Champions League. This is 7 straight wins, which is the most in Arsenal's history. 2-0 versus Athletic Club in the Champions League, sorry. 2-0 versus Olympiacos, 4-0 versus Atletico Madrid, 3-0 versus Slavia Prague, 3-1 Bayern Munich, 3-0 versus Club Brugge, 3-1 versus Inter. A few more for you. Arsenal in January 2026 are the first ever English top flight side to win an away game in 4 different competitions in a single month. It is a night of records. It is a night of joy. And it is a night nearly for George Futsa, so I can see him trying to set up his cameras in the background. I'll continue. We start with our headlines on the instant reaction. And my headline tonight is, can we play you every week, brackets Champions League? Look, we spend a lot of time on these shows, I think, sort of talking about, obviously we talk about the Premier League, we talk about the issues we're having in the Premier League, and they are still real. They're absolutely still real. And they deserve to be spoken about. We are having some attacking issues, but it's so refreshing to come into the Champions League, to see ourselves performing in this manner, different spaces, players with different intentions, central combinations, maybe not as defensively secure, maybe not controlling transitions, maybe comes to some of the drawbacks there, but we are seeing what this Arsenal team can do. I think at this point, if you aren't acknowledging that the Premier League is becoming almost like a different animal, it's a shame, I think, because I think it can skew our analysis of it. You have to acknowledge what the Premier League is at the minute, and it's making us perform in a certain way and putting us in certain conditions as a team. What you saw this evening is what this team can do. Now, can we get there in the Premier League? I hope so, and I think there's certain things we can do, but what you saw was some of the attacking talent let go. I still don't think that we've reached our potential at all, but you see just how far ahead we are of even a team like Inter's quality at some points and in some phases in that game. You saw the real quality of this team, which isn't always shown every week. So I'm really, really pleased. I think we can get George in, so I will bring him in. George, good sir. Are you okay?
Good, sir. I am okay. I had an internet issue, so I was running downstairs, redoing the router and all the fun stuff, exactly when we want to record, which is perfect timing.
Perfect time. I think you might be. Just check your mic, because I'm not sure you're not on your mic, so maybe just flip over. Gonna come to your super chat and stuff in a second. George, I'll come to you for your headline in just a moment. Let me get some stats up. Oh, you're on your mic. Go for it. Give me your headline.
I think that this team is better than we give them credit for. And the idea of entertainment is a matter of space. We talk about the differences in the Champions League as far as the form goes, as well as the Premier League team. And, there are certain players that I think look good, but look better in certain scenarios. And the better part in certain scenarios is sometimes influenced by the manager and sometimes influenced by teams. And to me, this was just a really brilliant day. There's a lot of people that deserve their time in the sun, and I'm excited to talk about it. But I just think that this team has gone through a period in which we've debated a little bit of the attacking fluidity and the ability to score goals. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the entertainment factor returned in the Champions League. And I kind of use returned in quotes because I do think spacing has been an issue for us, both in possession, out of possession, and who we face. So a lot of those factors come in, not to be too vague, but we are quite good. It was a nice reminder against a top opponent. And you look at the Champions League, mate, as far as landmark victories, I know maybe it's something that, we sit there with and we may struggle with total amounts, but this is a landmark victory on a rotated side that we exited the team with some people getting goals that needed it, and a performance that was a reminder that I think maybe we as fans maybe needed.
Headline for the format?
Spacing is fun. Spacing is fun.
I agree. I think the difference in quality that we're seeing, I don't think is a huge jump from one game to another. I think it's about the context, and it's about where we're playing our football, and that's why we are enjoying the Champions League so much. Let me just pull the table up. That means we are 21 points, 6 ahead of Real Madrid, who won this evening, I think, pretty comprehensively against Monaco. Obviously, Bayern Munich are still yet to play. I looked up the exact rules earlier in the actual UEFA booklet, and the top 2 teams get their second leg played at home for both the quarterfinal and the semi-final. I'd seen people say it, but I hadn't seen it written down in sort of official documentation, but I can even bring that up with you guys later. It's clause 19, I believe. So that's huge, and we've secured that this evening with this victory with only one game left to play. I think that is massive. Like, I really, really do, and I think it allows us obviously to not have to play. And I suspected we weren't ever going to have to play those extra 2 games, but for teams like Liverpool, for potentially a team like Manchester City, for potentially Newcastle United, for Spurs, maybe there is a sort of, or even though Spurs are up in 4th, there's maybe a question mark of the 2 extra games, which again, going back to this sort of Premier League context, is massive not to have to play that. But also the advantage of, obviously, as we say, playing that second leg at home is huge. We saw that against PSG. I think that did massively affect us, and I wonder how that game would have gone. That tie would have gone if we played that second leg at home. So to secure that, I don't want to underplay that, George. To me, that's massive.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to really contextualize what I'm seeing, because when I look at this squad in general, and I see the potential of the team, and I see what we can improve upon. I have a look at Eze, first start in a while, really, and some of the criticisms as far as being able to dominate the pockets, and our question of pocket players, especially with Ethan going out on loan, and then I think with Martin Odegaard's form, the question of the pockets in Arsenal has been something that I think is a fair criticism this season. And I look at the impact of what a little bit of pocket play creates as far as transitions, and I'm trying to balance this thing in my head where we clearly want to control the center because it has a direct impact on the transitions we concede. And you increase the central progression, you will increase the transitions. And this has been something that's consistent, not just with Arsenal. If you actually look at Manchester City, especially this season, and all of their metrics, they have won more than any other season. So them running more with an attempt to go through the park a little bit more is almost hand in hand, right? But this idea that we don't access the center as much as we could is true, but it is a major reason for our defensive solidity. And it's the major reason in which results are being had. And I'm trying to reconcile this idea of beautiful football over results in a season that we've all demanded no excuses. And it's tough to reconcile, because I think we have the solutions that maybe we didn't previously, but I'm not sure if I'm seeing the perfect myriad of pretty football with consistent results. And that seems to be almost the trajectory of demand, in addition to no excuses if we lose.
Yeah, well, I think this is kind of one of the big tensions in this side, and sort of analysing this side is we're all sort of demanding, especially in the Premier League, we're all demanding better attacking football, and I think there are certain things we can do. But what I point to is like the other extreme end of this. Let's say we played as centrally as we did this evening is Villa, and when you watch Villa, you see how many turnovers it's turnover after turnover after turnover after turnover, and they can't sustain attacks. And I think they're something like 13th in the league for expected goal difference. What you do is you watch Match of the Day and you see all these brilliant attacking moves, and you go, "Oh my goodness me!" But actually, in the course of the game, they can't sustain attacks, and they're taking up so many transitions. I've never had an issue with people wanting more centrally. I never have, because I think there's a dial, but the dial for me is not to be turned up, as we always talk about on here, not to be turned up from 5 to 10. It's 5 to 6, And it's like there's a little bit more. And I think in the Champions League, I think we can see that. I think maybe we're at 7 or 8 this evening at certain points. But in the Premier League, that's where, if you're giving transitions away, you are done. I think that's part of the reason why we play the way we do. Just to go back though on the point I raised about the sort of the first and second position secured. How big is that for you? Because I really don't want to skip over this. I think this is massive.
It almost pressures Mikel to do the thing that I think he's never done, which is prioritize. Pick a competition and prioritize, right? There's been this almost insistence from a standard perspective that Arsenal and our players cannot and must be able to play every 3 days, right? And I think the first and second position raises the question about the Mikel management and that idea. Do they need to play every 3 days? Is there a better rotation that we can do, having confirmed these spots and having confirmed this level of progress in the Champions League? I certainly think so, and I think I agree with Mikel on a lot of things. But as far as rotation goes, this is where we need to play it smart, and by securing first and second position, it surely pressures Mikel to treat the remaining Champions League games as a little bit more of a formality than I think he's comfortable admitting in person and to the rest of the squad, because it's a very fine line to turn off and on motivation and rotation. And
there's only one, and they're already out. So I'm really if this guy can't rotate for that, I don't know what he can rotate for. So I'm pretty sure that happens. But I really do think we'll look back on this as a big thing later in the season, and we'll be really, really pleased. I think when we're probably, not to speak too soon, but in a Champions League semi-final or final, I really, really do feel that. Let's have a look at the stats from this evening. Sorry, got the wrong tweet up, but there's so many stats coming out. And sorry, the wrong thing I brought up, but I do want to read out, is Arsenal the first ever English top flight side to win an away game in 4 different competitions in a single month. I said this earlier: Bournemouth Premier League, Inter Milan the Champions League, Portsmouth in the FA Cup, and Chelsea in the Carabao Cup. First ever English top flight side to do that ever in a away game in 4 different competitions in a single month. It's, to perform as we are away on the road, this little run, I was worried about this little run, and actually we've come through it, not perfectly, of course, because the Nottingham Forest game, but that's 4 away games, 3 wins and 1 draw. I'd take that. Let's look at the stats. So Inter 1, Arsenal 3, 1.4 expected goals to our 2.1, 18 shots to our 17. And there were some transition issues, as we sort of alluded to. Maybe we can come to that a little bit later. They shaded us on possession. They shaded us on passes completed. We obviously shaded them on field tilt, though. So that's all that matters. 45 final third entries to our 34, 2.5 expected threat created to 3.7, 47 deep touches to 51, zone 14 touches 17 to 8. Statistically, some certainly betraying us maybe in those transition moments as more dangerous than they felt at certain points. There's the 3 goals and the running XG across the match. There's the shot maps and the XG numbers in that sense as well, and the sort of momentum and field tilt of the game, which is sort of probably broadly how I felt, although I'm not sure it felt as sort of dominant from Inter in that second half as maybe that shows. But obviously this is only just by one metric, the sort of the share of final third touches. Across the 90, let's push on these transition issues. As you say, if you're going to put the ball more at risk centrally, you're going to give up transitions. And if you're not playing Gabriel and Declan Rice and Martin Odegaard and Calafiori and Nketiah and Kai Havertz and all these guys, you're going to have those moments. But what I would like to praise is firstly the adaptation to 2, which is not something we play particularly often in the Premier League, and I think we dealt with that pretty well. There was a couple of sort of shaky moments with the wide players and the 2 in the middle that Saliba and Mosquera had to deal with, but more generally the broadly the last ditch defending. If Zubimendi gets his leg in front of that shot, he blocks it, and Inter don't even have their goal, and we're walking out of that game with a clean sheet. So I was really pleased. If you're going to give up those chances, if you're going to play more centrally, if you're going to play in the Champions League, that's going to happen. You can't say, we shouldn't have conceded them. It's going to happen, or at least a few. I was really pleased with how we defended those situations.
I want to highlight Mosquera. He had to be at times a one-man transition person. And, there was a lot of work that he had to do as far as working off the Ram, who's an absolute handful. And that battle, I thought there was times in which maybe, Mosquera could be a little bit more dominant, especially with his physicality against really strong physical center forwards. It's kind of something we picked up on, and even in the scouted. It's just a learning curve thing with him. But his intelligence about when to be aggressive and, the ability to eat up ground when you do replace Declan, Gabriel, Odegaard. Like those are some out of possession pillars that we rely on, right, for a lot of structure. And I think, I do think Mikel Merino was a little bit flat-footed in the first half, and I thought at times Eze was struggling to find his position in the press to get back. His touch was a little bit loose, Eze, as well. And so it kind of resulted in a little bit more transitions than I was comfortable with. But I also thought Inter really showed some potency in how they completed their transitions as well. Like the speed to which they were able to run box to box was truly impressive. The decisions that they made in transition, all really top. I think as far as Arsenal were concerned, our buildup was really impressive. Our initial press as well was very impressive, really forcing Inter back into their own box. There was a lot of effort that went into Arsenal dominating those first 15, 20 minutes, in my opinion. And it was just moments in which I felt that Mikel Merino was a little flat-footed and, Eze was a little bit loose, where the passes would come inside, we'd have a transition, and then the running back to goal was really hoping that Mascara would cover Miles, who looked a little bit slow at times. As the game grew, that improved a bit. But I do think when you employ like a Mikel Merino, Zubamendi, and an Eze midfield, that's a midfield that lacks power. Yeah. And, you have Gabriel missing. So I think it's almost anticipated that transitions would increase.
Yeah.
But Mascara, I thought, dealt with it brilliantly. What a return. And what a return his presence made to the defense, by the way, as far as some rotation goes, as far as some solidity back there. And I just look at this kid and I think, what a prospect. What we did, that's one of the better deals that we've done.
It's amazing. And to come back in and play 75 minutes basically off the back of an injury, I think he only got on the bench last game. To not have to put 75 minutes into Gabriel's legs is just, it's priceless. That's really, it's absolutely priceless. The pace of his passing, the physical level that you can see he's at already, considering how long he's been out for, is really, really impressive. I didn't hate Merino and Eze in possession. I thought there were some nice moments, but I thought out of possession, both of them, I agree in terms of being caught flat-footed. I didn't have an issue with the structure of the press. The issue for me this evening was the execution. And I felt as though Merino and Eze were going to a lot of battles, and even Zubamendi at times as well, were going to a lot of battles where they sort of win the first ball, but the ball would ricochet off them, or they'd lose the second one. Eze, I have a bit of a thing at the minute, and maybe this is a clue to potentially why he's being used minutes-wise the way he is. He's a little lazy is not the right word. He's a little bit uncareful with where he puts the ball once he's won it. If he's coming into a challenge, it's like, I'm just going to win the ball and I don't really care where it goes. And I would like to see him take a little bit more care. And you see it with, Saliba, Mascara, the best sort of tacklers in our squad. I'm not suggesting he needs to get there, but there's a number of times. Was it the Man City game where he wins the ball, but he boots it into the back of someone and nearly it like hits the bar or something? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
There's a lot of that stuff with him out of it. It feels like he wins it and he has the physical capacity to win it, but it doesn't take much care over where it goes. Similarly with Merino, there was a lot of like getting forward aggressive, but he'd lose the battle and then he turns like milk, and it takes a while. So I think the execution for me was the issue. But we're missing Odegaard and Rice, so there you go. Let's talk about Gabriel Jesus' performance. 2 goals. Really impressed with him. I will come to your super chats and stuff in a second, guys. Thank you so much. I remember us having this conversation, and I remember us really sort of coming to a conclusion about Gabriel Jesus. If you give him 5 seconds, 3 seconds to think about a finish, he will miss it. If you give him no chance to think about it, he will score. And that was and I sort of thinking about the usage of Gabby Jesus, especially in the context of the type of centre forward we have, other centre forwards that we have around him playing almost a little bit more Gyökeres-y in that way, off the last shoulder, right next to the, in the 6-yard box, I think could suit him. And I think he could get some goals in the rest of this season.
So a lot of the reasons why my headline was spacing was because 2 of our center forwards that we've criticized quite a bit for looked great. And it wasn't just Jesus. I thought when Gyökeres came on, he looked great. And it wasn't just because of the sequence of the goal. I thought he looked more powerful, more secure in his ability to hold up the ball. And I think Gabby Jesus also looked a little bit bigger of a reference in this game. And I have a look at why. And, I think I've been on record saying I think Jesus still has it to play at the top level, but in a Serie A. And you see why. Like, this was a top Inter side. And I think Jesus is one of the few players in our squad that is in a good way, the chaos. He brings the chaos. Calafiori smacks you in the face, but there is a bit of Jesus that he doesn't do what the plan is. There's a bit of invention, and that can, that can lead to decisions that he holds on to the ball too much. That can lead to decisions where he overthinks, and it's probably why he's not an elite spectrum as far as an output goes. But as far as creating space for other people, he's probably one of the best in the squad as far as creating space for his teammates. And there was a lot of work that he did as far as dropping into the pivot, offering a little bit more security than I felt Eze did at times, and being a bit more of that pivot for the team, not necessarily in a physical sense, but in a technical sense, that pivot to escape and really create space for his teammates was something that I think needs to be praised. And I think even at his worst, he's always been somebody willing to create space for his teammates. It just looked a bit better against weaker defenders physically. And
when you score, you're more willing to go. Oh, he's also creating space. If he doesn't score, and you go, but he's creating space. No one cares.
No.
I also think it's not a coincidence that Saka had one of his better games this season with Jesus in the side, because I think this ability for Saka to come inside and Jesus to pull out wide is massive for Saka. Yeah. It's huge. To give him the freedom to do that and not have a reference centre forward. And again, that's not a comment on Gyökeres. It's literally just who he is. He's not going to pull out wide. I think that's big for Saka. And I think I was really, really impressed with Saka this evening. I think his execution's a bit off. I won't lie. There was a couple of moments where he was through and I felt...
Delays his shot.
Yeah. Can you pull the trigger a little bit earlier? Can you, there was a couple of moments where he just fluffs his lines a little bit. But in terms of the impact on the game, in terms of running our attack again, I think it is big for him to have the Havertz's and Jesus. And I'm not saying he can't play with the Gyökeres at all, but I think you immediately see him come to life. And I think, again, we're back to sort of what's the best Mikel Arteta number 9. And I think there is a reason why Saka's been there most of the time and false nines have generally worked. You know what I mean? Because they can do that stuff for Saka.
Yeah, he had a good game. I think, again, it's going to be the output debate. And I do think that it's got to a point in which some of the output he's overthinking, if I'm being honest with you. Like that option that he's got as far as pulling the trigger on his left foot on the left-hand side, that finish, by the way, Saka's finishing on the left has always been better. And it's actually been early, strong, and low throughout his entire career. And I actually think he's been more clinical on the left than he is on the right, broadly with his finishing. It's just on the right, you have a lot more options as far as what he shows creatively and in his angles. And so he's always been the more impactful player on the right. But as far as finishing went, I always felt the left-hand side, he was actually a very strong finisher. Yep. He takes it early typically, and it's unusual for him to delay in the manner he did. But what I loved was, okay, people are going to say really poor execution in the first half, but do you know that run that he makes as far as taking it on the outside, coming inside, and it flashes to the left? I sit there and I go, that's what I want. Your forward taking responsibility, taking on 2-3 men and really testing. Look, the execution's poor. He missed it. He didn't get it on target. You want that on target, but the onus that he takes to do it and completely dismantle Inter, the work he did on DeMarco, who had a very tough night. Look, goals and assists are what matter in a football debate, but I think everybody that looks over their shoulder is saying, wow, the way that he was able to dictate today was absolutely incredible. By far our best attacker, in my opinion. And he looked really bright. He looked really bright. Some of his zip was back as far as the unpredictability. And that's what I actually was getting a little bit more worried on. Not necessarily the goals, but the unpredictability. Saka looked a little bit predictable in the last couple games. And I don't think that's something I ever say about Saka. So today, there was just a little bit more zip in his step, for sure.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Loads of other stuff to cover, but I'm sure we'll get to it in your super chats. Thank you all for joining us. We'll come to some other comments as well if we have time. Eve M1990, Arteta in love when he approached Zubi. Me too. Weirdly, I didn't think this was Zubimeni's best night. Personally, I felt he looked a little bit off. I think he should have closed down Suchits for the goal, and then I was kind of on his case a little bit for the rest of the evening. I didn't feel like he was particularly. It wasn't really a Zubimendi night. We were getting the ball forward quickly down the sides, and then it was sort of out and then come inside rather than sort of go central, then go wide, if that makes sense. It felt like he was slightly bypassed. Yeah, thoughts on Zubi's night?
There was just a little bit less influence in the final third. And I just think others took control of the game a little bit more through the thirds than I'm used to. I still think he was fine. Like, I don't know if, like, it wasn't great and it wasn't bad. It was functional. is maybe the performance that I would say. And look, maybe that's something that he needs as far as the minutes that he's accumulated this season. Like there's going to be some performances that if they don't ask you to be more than functional, then maybe he's decided that. But I kind of agree with you. It was subdued. I don't know if it was necessarily bad or good, because there was a lot of moments in build-up that I felt he was really important. The decision-making that he was doing killed the inner press quite a bit. But then the next part, right? Like the idea to really be penetrative in the final third, provide a ball into the pockets, it wasn't quite there. So on that end, I was like, I would have liked more. That would have been a great performance. Like when you do it in all phases, that's a great performance. This felt like, yeah, he was good. Wasn't bad.
Yeah.
It was good, functional.
I think naturally with a 2 and sort of the way into a pressing, I felt he just, he was useful off that first pass to Ryan, him dropping in, playing the ball around the corner to Saliba, but then that's where the spaces opened up. I wouldn't be surprised if his touches, I'm going to try and look them up while we move forward, but I wouldn't be surprised if his touches were way lower than normal. Because, I just thought, it was just not particularly a night for Zubimendi, but absolutely fine. Because he's been brilliant the last couple of games. Ivan Smith says, "What a performance! What a night, Ivan." I would still like to know if you are that guy in the peach jacket, because if you are, that is great news. Thank you for super chats. And they said the Premier League is weak. Shaking my head. Yeah, I'm not going to. The numbers are what they are, and you can argue with numbers if you want, but they are what they are. Miles looks like he runs in quicksand. Yeah, we haven't spoken about Miles yet. Do you know what it is, George? I was trying to sort of diagnose it this evening. I think he has checked out a little bit, I believe. And I can understand that, Calafiori's form, you signing Nkapie towards the end of the window. He signed a new contract. It would be natural after such a big year, as I've always said, to just have a bit of a moment. What it is, as a fullback, especially in Arteta's system, you can't stand still. You can't. You have to be anticipating the next pass, anticipating the next ball, recovery run, then you back up the field. His staticness is not a bad thing if you play in midfield. If you're a midfielder, standing still in the Adam Wharton way sometimes is exactly what you need to do, and then choosing to burst, choosing to play the pass, because he has the carry, he's got the pass, he's got the weight, he's got the punch through the lines, he's got the get out of my way, he's got the turn, all those things in the midfield. I think I've sort of it's like sort of horseshoe theory. He's a midfielder playing left back. No, he's not. He's this unbelievable dual winning left back who's absolutely going to change our life from left back. Oh no, Calafiori's in the team. Oh no, I think he just looks like a midfielder playing left back. That's kind of where I come back to with Lewis Skelly. Because right now, I think the physical aspect of things, he's getting run past, he's getting bypassed. It doesn't look right.
I almost need to be fair, because I just think that the performances haven't been good enough. And I don't think you need to be a super analyst to see that. And he's shown a level that was below the level that he was showing last year. A lot of reasons I can make for it. The biggest thing that players need is to feel like they're being chased or pushed. There was a carrot in front of him last season. It was, you play well, you will start for your dream club. And now it's almost like it got so good that he was accepted, and he was, he was part of the friend group. Like, when you come to school and you're super motivated to make a good first impression, or you go, into a new friend group and you're super motivated to make a good impression. And then there's a period in which, you're now comfortable and you're no longer trying as hard. And I don't know if it's a motivation thing necessarily, but it's almost like he's let himself get too comfortable is what I'm seeing. And so things like being a step yard behind, those are physical concerns, are things I never have with Miles. When the physical goes, I look towards another diagnosis, because he is such a physical player. So if the physical goes, okay, is it fitness? Is it mental? Is it one of those? Because when your superpowers go, I tend to ask other questions, right? If there was weaknesses that were on show, then I would probably critique the player as far as understanding how to coach a bit better. But there does seem to be this, and motivation's the wrong word. It is a bit of the Eze where it's lackadaisical. It's a little bit carefree, whereas everything else was intense. Everything was on his toes. There's a bit flat-footedness to his decisions, to his recovery pace, and to his game. and it's just about getting that, like that.
Yeah.
He's a pit bull. That's his mentality. So coaching that, it doesn't work to be lackadaisical. That's not your type of play. So encouraging to bring that out.
There was a shot, I can't remember when it was. I think it was in the first half from an interplay, and it might be on the highlights that you get to see it, because it was a decent shot, I think. So if they put it in the package, you'll see it. And Miles is with him the whole time.
Yeah.
And he goes to block the shot, and you watch it in the slow-mo. He is, ironically, miles off it. It's not even close to get it. It's like the shot goes, and then his leg goes about a second later. And yeah, he's just slightly off the beat, to use a musical phrase. Like he's just slightly behind the beat, and I don't know what it is. And ultimately, as you say, physically, it doesn't feel like this is a player who can't keep up. He can keep up. So the only place we can look is mentally. We don't know. And we're being accused of being armchair psychologists in the chat, so I'm not going to carry on and speculate. There's my opinion, and whether you take it or not is up to you. But if someone else can give me another reason, because we're all seeing the same issue, tell me what it is. And for me, I think the possibly the England place maybe going out of reach, the Calafiori, the second season, those things seem to add up to me. That's all I can say.
I do think that he's in a period. Sorry, just really quickly. I think he's in a period of questioning his identity a little bit. Yes, like last year it was so clear. It was new kid on the block, make a stand,
Hero.
make a name for yourself, right? Now this season it's okay, you're being coached, opposing analysts are looking at you. You are now accepted as a professional. You've given the respect. You're not the plucky youngster, but then it's about re-identifying himself. And I do think he's between two ideas right now. And it's natural. Look, I'm going to be honest, you play a left back that didn't play all of last season, and then you buy a 30 million pound plus other left back in the only position you broke into. There's going to be a bit of, okay, well, where's my identity then?
Nketiah is like Arteta's second most expensive defender. Like it's not. It's that's an investment, and he might just feel, I'm just waiting to move into midfield. Yeah. We'll see. Josh Miller, it's a weak Champions League, to be fair. I'm presuming that is a joke. Thank you for being a member for 15 months. Simon Trail with half a beard became a YouTube member. Thank you so much. Beanie, Alex, your 1 to 11 will be tough. Everyone cooked. George, give me your 1 to 11.
Oh God, I hate those things. Raya. Wait, do you do it in order as like the best one, or you just go in order?
11 would be the worst performing player. 1 would be the best. I won't reveal mine.
Oh God. Put me on the spot, Jesus. I actually think, as far as the worst performing player, I might go with Marino personally, or Eze
11
for me.
10.
Then I'd go Marino.
9.
Miles
8.
Then I'd go Zubamendi.
Yeah, 7.
Yeah, I'd go Trossard as well.
6.
I'd go Timber after that.
Yeah, 5.
Saliba.
You got the keeper to go.
Oh, do I? Oh shit. Put Raya before Saliba.
All right.
And then Saliba next, Saka. And I think I'm complete.
You've got to rank. You've got to get Jesus in there and Mosquera. Did you have Mosquera?
Yeah, I thought I did. I put Mosquera before Saliba. I'll put Jesus. Yeah, put Jesus before Saka second, and just put those down.
Saka's number 1. There you go.
Yeah, I think Saka had the best game.
Mike Watts, I love the simplicity of the front four. Was so good. Yeah, it's something we've spoken about a lot. It's just the complementary pairings and balance and all those sorts of things. It did feel balanced, but I also wonder how much of it is Jesus. As I always say with Jesus, he generates football, and so we will naturally look, if you've got Eze coming in those pockets and Jesus drifting out wide, it will feel more balanced and sort of flowing. Will it have a better outcome? Different conversation. But I think for me, Jesus is a big part of that. Never Losing says, attacking issues. What attacking issues? Come on, you Gunners. Exactly. Jamal Montenario says, Saliba on the ball has been moving different. He's adding something to his game at the minute. He's getting into those final third positions. He's combining.
Taking the game by the scruff of the neck, man.
Yeah.
Getting into midfield, forcing the issue, adding a bit more. And you know what? It's not even just.
Listens to the Cannon podcast, mate.
100%. Look, he's definitely added a level of consistency and on the ball presence that's affecting us now in the best ways possible. And one of my favorite things is him adding a little bit of flair to it. Like, it's not just carry into midfield, pass off. It's drop a feint, create a new way to get inside. It's a bit more than just the carry, pass off. It's now carry, invent, pass. And it's just he's showing a huge growth. Look, I made the claim. I think he's better than Gabriel this year. I thought Gabriel had a better performance over the course of the season last year. I think Saliba has been absolutely incredible, showing his best on the ball qualities this season, but also just defensively, he's been a monster this season. This is one of his better seasons, and it's not normal after such a big contract. Like, I don't know if that gets spoken about enough. I mean, we're quick to say when performances drop off. I think Saliba's gone up a level.
He is the most like in the media, like we must win kind of guy, which I like.
Yeah,
I don't agree with you yet, but if he keeps it up by about March or April, I'll be on that train, because I think Gabriel started the season so strongly. But yeah, he's certainly on the route. Saliba on the ball's moving different. Let's do this one. That Martinelli pass, very good. Congratulations to Bodo Glimt for their first ever Champions League. So their first ever Champions League win.
I don't know about that. I'd be shocked if that was. I thought they were pretty good. They've got some good fixtures, haven't they? Haven't they had some like pretty?
They've only won one in this.
Wins?
They've only won one in this season. Is that the first time they've ever been in the Champions League?
What is that? More you know.
Yeah, it's their first ever win in the Champions League. That's crazy.
Wow.
I didn't know that. I love that. Also, any comment on Saka not liking Victor rhetoric? It's just rubbish. It's just rubbish. I take for granted how well we build up with B team. Well, to be fair, we still had a lot of the build up quality to something with Zubamendi, Saliba, and Raya, which is a big part of it, to be honest, and Timber as well. But yeah, I think one of the things I loved about this evening was just how seamless it felt even with that rotation. In terms of rotations from the last game, how many is that? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 changes from the start of last game. Because Raya, Saliba, Zubi, Timber all started. But Mascara, Lewis Kelly, Eza, Trossard, Jesus, Saka, and Marino. Yeah. Wow. The problem is most people view football in GA. I think this was said when we were talking about Saka. Yes, unfortunately. So thank you for being a member for 19 months, Andre. Very kind of you.
That's huge.
That is huge. We've got people on like 24 months. It's crazy. Back in the fetus days. Simon says, Hypno, why do players turn sideways to block shots? Good question.
Instinct.
I guess they don't. Yeah, I guess they don't want to be hit in the face.
It's really weird. Yeah, 100%. And it's natural.
You wouldn't. Yeah.
Like goalkeepers are strange. Like they have to like think about it. Like if you've ever played, look, I've played in goal just casually, and like one of the big things is like not reacting and just being able to react to the trajectory. Like it's pretty simple. Naturally, you're gonna want to turn your face, protect your face. It's the most vital part, you know. Yeah,
I hear that. Can we get an Endrick scouted? Been so good for Leon. If we get a link, mate. If we get a link for Endrick, I'll take that. There is, people are saying there is this big move that we're targeting in the summer. And I've not just heard that from, you know who. I've heard that from a number of people that where there is a big attacking signing that we're looking at in the summer.
Bro, I love it. I've been demanding this for years. So I really hope so. It's needed. We need that.
Can Trossard play the Odegaard game better and with more options than Odegaard right now? Thoughts on one area and the team set up for Champions League with Marino and Rice?
You know what? Ironically, I have thought about this quite a bit, especially in regards to getting more out of Eze. But I think it needs a little bit more of a presence on the outside. I think Trossard right now, he has look, he's just been one of the references from us. Our best attacker of the season has been Trossard. So it's like, I don't want to take you out of zones that you've just been thriving in. But as far as being able to offer us some security in the final third, he's probably been our most reliable across the season. And that's maybe a bit harsh on Saka, but I just think it's quite true, in which with limited touches, he's been the most efficient with those limited touches, even though Saka probably gets more of the ball. It's an option that you can see, but I do worry about maybe overanalyzing here. It's just, I think that Eze right now, we have invested the time to make Eze an alternative there. And to do it now with Trossard would be a little bit wasted time as far as how we're trying to develop Eze. I think it would benefit them. I can't lie. I think that a Trossard on the inside and Eze off the left with a little bit more overlap, I think that actually gets the best of both players. But I think the work and how do I put this? Like, the growing pains we've seen with Eze this season central are going to be the biggest payoff for his career as far as offering a versatility in that area, which I think he has.
Just quickly on Waneri.
Well, what do you think about it?
I think it's a nice move in isolation for him. My question is, I don't think we have a player like him in the squad, so that's a slight worry. I mean, and naturally, that's how you build squads, right? You're not going to have a load of sort of quality overlap, but that is a concern. But ultimately, he's not getting enough minutes, so there we go. I don't know what the recall clause is like. I hope we have one. That would be important. I like the way it's structured in terms of there's an incentive to play him. I do like that. The one thing I will say is just in terms of numbers, it slightly concerns me if we're not going to bring in a midfield signing, which I think now, loan wise, have we opened up a slot or something?
Well, Zinchenko is now a permanent sale, so you've opened up a loan sale, technically.
So there's a loan that could go out maybe, and then to bring. I don't know whether that affects anything, but I just in terms of numbers, I look at through to the end of the season. I guess what I'm saying is, if Zubimendi gets injured, I'm worried. If Rice gets injured, I'm worried. And I'm not saying that Waneri would have been a direct replacement, but he would have taken some strain off Odegaard, who would have had a bigger role asked of him, would have taken some strain off Marino, would have had a bigger role asked of him. Norgard, a lot of these guys. I'm just slightly worried about numbers.
I'm a big fan of it. I wanted the Bournemouth. Look, I wanted it with the idea of having a Semenyo back with us. I thought it would be a nice sweetener, but I always felt that Ethan needed a loan the most right now. And why is because, look, I could respect if he wanted to stay, and I could maybe get on board if it was a player-led decision. But really, I felt for his development, we need another 1K. Like, he's at the point, mate, where he broke out last year. And we simply don't have the options. Like, if you're talking about Odegaard, you're talking about Eze having been an option down there. You're talking about Mikel Merino, who's been shown to be an option there. Havertz back, who is shown as being an option there. Then you add the Max Dowman return to injury as far as Madueke and Saka goes with right-wing depth. There's bodies there for me. And I just think, like, as far as he could play, he definitely offers something unique. I completely agree with you. I still think he's one of, if not our best pocket player in the squad, undoubtedly. I think that he could have been useful here, but I look at the total minutes on hand, and I think is 200 minutes the best for even Arsenal and him, or is 1,000 minutes or another 1,200 minutes the best for him and Arsenal, especially under the context of what type of coach that we're looking at. I think if we weren't going to go Bournemouth, De Zerbi's a brilliant match as far as stylistically, the way that he wants to progress through the center of the pitch. The style complement is brilliant. And I think that the loan structure is incredibly smart. Like a staged loan that reduces the fee the more he plays, providing an incentive for the club to play him. It's brilliant. That's just not the type of thing that we've seen creatively with this squad. And so I'm just really happy as long as it's a player and club-led agreement, which it sounds like it has been.
Yeah,
I'm happy. It's to a team that makes sense. It's with a loan structure that promotes him playing. All the ticks as far as loans go, it's a green flag everywhere. There is just that bit of hanging where it's like, well, he's also our best pocket player, and we struggle in pockets.
Yeah, and look, maybe I'm being overcautious on the numbers thing. By the way, like possibly.
Yeah, there is a lot.
There are play, but I just don't want any reason, any reason why we won't win the league. And if I don't know, Odegaard falls over and Eze falls over, I just don't want anything to go wrong. And I appreciate that's probably overly cautious. But if we have a recall clause, I'm okay with it. We've also got Fabio Vieira out on loan. Again, I don't know if we have a recall clause, but something there. Simon Trail says, I'm listening from outside the San Siro. Got to say, the Arsenal away fans, tremendous. Saliba's class. We need to applaud Arteta's subs this evening. Simon, thanks for joining us from outside the San Siro, my friend. Go and get a Baroni and enjoy tonight, my friend. Thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate that. The subs, to be fair, I think we're good. And on that, I think we should close with this. We have been critical of Victor Gyökeres for good reason on this podcast. And I think the numbers that come out, and I feel like sort of, the general fan opinion has sort of generally swayed in a certain direction. However, this evening is a perfect example of what he can do. And the point that I've made, even through this sort of poor patch of form, is he's never this bad. And I think what you see with Gyökeres this evening is he comes on, and I said this in a recent podcast, the way to fix this is you allow him to become the hero. Bring him on against tired legs, bring him on in open spaces, bring him on, Champions League game, cup games, those sorts of things, and let him get in those situations against tired defenders, against, ideally non-Premier League defenders, but I think he could also build himself up against certain non-Premier League defenders and get him some goals. If he's allowed to become the hero, be in those spaces, look at the context in which he scored that goal. That's the context he scores the Sporting goals. Those contexts do exist. They don't exist, though, from the start in the Premier League after you've done 90 minutes, three games in a row. That's when it doesn't exist, and that's when it's a problem. But in this situation, fair play to him, good finish, and that's what he can do when you put him in the right context. We just need to put him in that context.
And I think it's just spacing as well. Like at the end of the game in which you're having a close 2-1 lead, having an outlet that pushes the line back is just smart. Yeah. It's smart usage.
He's
right?
The hero. It's great.
Yeah, and it's just it's something that I think me and you have been asking for, by the way. For all the criticisms that we've had, having a finishing sub to push the line back when you're either in a leading, drawn, or even any game state, I think Victor Gyökeres, after the 70th minute, is a very good weapon to have to push a line back. No matter the context, that's just smart usage. So I think it's just about being smart, especially now that we've got the fitness of our other number 9s. We can be more selective with the minutes, and let's be more selective. Let's put him in positions to thrive. And I think this is an example of one exactly.
Yeah. Final one, set up for Man U.
A Man United that I think have a confidence boost. That was some really good play that they did against City, and so I don't think that's going to be an easy game.
I think it depends. I don't think they will try the repeat trick against Man City. I think what they identified against Man City is how bad they are tracking runs from the midfield, and they just did that over and over and over again until they just broke them. I think it might. I think it'll be a tough game, but I'm pretty sure we'll hold them in their half. I was going to say at our stadium, but in their half, because I think they will try and sit in broadly. I feel.
I actually think that's if they did, I'd be happy. I actually think they got a little bit of confidence with that little rondo thing that I saw against City. The idea that City committed so many men forward so aggressively, I actually think played into the way Carrick likes to play. And they ended up looking quite good technically because of it. I wonder, I think the biggest, and I really don't mean this in a condescending way, but it's going to come across it. I think if you give United the ball, they have less ideas than they do when, they try to force you into a mistake right now. Because I just don't think that their technical level is at the period where if you sit off and you let them play, and Mikel has done that the last time as well. I would love a Havertz start for me. I think this is the exact type of game that we need a Kai Havertz in. I just don't know if I am of the opinion of full court press, ironically. I'm normally like that. That with a lot of, I don't know. I don't know. Something's holding me back, and I think it's more about the Carrick and how it's too soon. If this was a month into Carrick, I think I'm a bit more willing to step up and do it. But yeah, I mean,
I think
we're at home, right?
Yeah, and I think that's why I think it might be an execution thing. If I suspect we'll start slow and start controlled, and if they're trying, what they would, I mean, literally, for me, there are 2 tricks against Man City: overload to isolate and ping it far side and run off the last line. Yeah. If they basically, I think we start slow. If they're trying to do that, we control it a little bit more and then try and hit them on the break, and maybe you do give them a bit more of the ball. Or if they're not trying to do that, if you feel like they've got a different game plan, then we can do something different. But I don't think Carrick will try. I think he's too smart. I don't think he'll try the same thing again. I think he will recognize that unless you get that execution right, someone win. I don't know who we're going to play at left back, or if you try that same thing where you just keep pinging it out to Dorgu, Timber will keep winning those, and you will suffer. So yeah, I don't know. Interesting. We'll do a preview of that with Lies at some point. But for now, thank you all for joining us on the Instant Reaction. As always, make sure you're here after every single Arsenal game when we are live to break down the game. We'll be back for the main podcast that came out today, so you can check that out. We will be back for a Rip My Take later on this week, which we're recording Thursday. Are we somewhere on Thursday? Should have a preview with Lies and potentially scouted as well before the Instant Reaction to the United game. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, George.
Thank you, good sir.
Thank you so much for watching, as always, and thanks so much for keeping it Arsenal.
Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. This was one kind of queue the ladies thoroughly enjoyed.
Electrifying. Electrifying. Inspiration.